Hello there, welcome back to my continuing series on world government UFO disclosure. We're in the midst of discussions on 16 different world governments, which is comprising more than half of the world's entire population in terms of the long-time activities that these governments have traveled in terms of disclosing what they know, making known to the public what they know about the UFO extraterrestrial intelligent life hypothesis. So without further ado, let me take you into tonight's discussion, courtesy of Germany. First, a few fun facts about the German Republic. The population of Germany currently is about 85 million people, and that represents a little bit, right around 1% of the entire world's population. Now, in terms of the disclosure dimension, I sighed there real quick. Germany, the Republic, does not seem to want to cooperate all that much in terms of being completely transparent. They've maintained a very long history of non-disclosure, and it's generally accepted and conjectured that the German government's archives do hold quite a bit of information regarding the ETI hypothesis. So their history goes way back, as you may or may not know, pre-World War II times, back in the 1930s. I can segue a little bit into the history and development of these activities and events, at least anyways. Like I said, back in the 1930s, when the Nazi party, socio-political party, was gearing up towards their war efforts, they had many incidences and some contributors, scientific contributors, amongst those Victor Schaumburg, the physicist, Werner von Braun, and many other rocket research and aeronautical research departments of the Nazi Party themselves. So it's been conjectured too that during one of their famous events was back in 1936, the Black Forest crash retrieval, which was supposedly back engineered and gave the Nazi scientists very valuable information that translated into certainly advanced technology developments and whatnot that our society is still discovering more than 90 years later. Many of the accomplishments that the Nazi scientists were able to advance in terms of technology and devices and efforts, including possibly UFOs. There was mentions and from the Der Glocke and the supposed visits by an extraterrestrial society called the Vril, who were residents on planet Earth and in Germany for a few years in the late 30s when the Nazi war machine was gathering steam, so to speak. And also, too, the U.S. did get involved, the U.S. Navy, in the late 40s with Project High Jump, Operation High Jump, which was stationed down in the Antarctic, and Admiral Richard Byrd was a big part of that in the late 1940s, in which U.S. Navy ships were supposedly destroyed by UFO encounters and battles and things like that. So the history is very rich, and that has led the inference from ufologists and the public alike that Germany has many secrets to hide in terms of disclosure. So a little bit more about the history of Germany's activities and events with UFOs and whatnot. I mentioned also in the 1940s, during World War II, and this was a phenomenon, the Foo Fighter phenomenon, that was experienced and reported by both the Axis and the Allied forces. Incidentally, on a personal note, in terms of reference to the Foo Fighters, my father, who flew in World War II. He flew a B-17 aircraft, and his crews were witness to, according to the stories that he told me, they had 4 different occasions where they had experienced the Foo Fighter phenomenon. So, just saying. But so fast forward a little bit into the 1950s. In July of 1952, to be specific, this case report was taken from the U.S.'s Central Intelligence Agency files. So Walter Smith was a signatory on some of these files that eventually were released to the public. It talks about mayor of Gleimerhausen. His name was Oscar Linke. Now, himself and his 11-year-old daughter had a CE4 event where they came face to face with 2 humanoids with shiny metallic clothing on. Their ship had landed. The beings again met eyes with Mayor Linke, and the craft. Mayor Linke also witnessed the craft that had landed, and when they met, the 2 creatures ran back to their ship, boarded, and took off under the typical UFO reported physics of propulsion physics of very fast takeoff, very fast acceleration under fire, very high radiation. There were tests conducted after the event that indicated very high radiation levels around the particular area of the sighting itself, and also trace evidence. There were circular burns left in the ground, left behind from this particular event. So just one of the events. There's been a few others. Fast forward in August of 1986 in the Fehmarn region along the Baltic Sea, where hundreds of Border Patrol guards and the public they witnessed a disc, very bright, noiseless, and describing the, again, UFO characteristics, UAP characteristics. The disc was very bright, noiseless. It stopped in midair, hovered, continued very slowly. It did land on the ground, and all of the witnesses heard a very loud electronic humming noise. This was, again, in the Fehmarn region near Puttgarden is actually the town, city location for that particular sighting. But again, witnessed by hundreds of military, police, border guards, and the general public. This is going to come up later a little bit in further discussion that I'll have in a few minutes about the disclosure efforts of German government and the agencies involved with disclosure and holding of files and whatnot. So in August of 1990, August 24th to be exact, again in the Baltic Sea region near Greifswald, there was reports by border guards also and the general public of luminous spheres which displayed, again, the typical UFO, UAP physical propulsion and flight characteristics, very high acceleration, stopping instantaneously, the 90-degree, 180-degree turns back and forth that has been displayed so much in ufology lore. So as I mentioned, morphing back, that we had wished that the German authorities were a little bit more transparent in their disclosure efforts, but there are still some main contributors to the efforts of disclosure and whatnot. Among them, there's a very good book written by Henry Stevens in 2003. I encourage you to get this title. It's called Hitler's Flying Saucers, A Guide to German Discs of the Second World War. That will give you a very good both chronological and technological understanding of a little bit of a mindset of how Nazi Germany was actually conducting their activities, and the reference and the correlation with some UFO, UAP activities and events and whatnot. So in current times, the main contributor to the disclosure and information effort, Robert Fleischer, he's been a longtime ufologist in Germany. I think it's since the very early 1990s. He's got he's got websites and YouTube channels and whatnot. Amongst them, he can be known or keyworded under Exopolitik Deutschland, and exopolitik.org is the location of one of his online websites. As I mentioned, he has a YouTube channel, Exopolitik TV. And also a website here that I'll give you. He does have a magazine. It's exomagazine.tv, and I'll throw throughout my discussion here, as I've done in all the other episodes of World Government UFO Disclosure. I'll throw list the relevant and important websites up on the screen here. But I'll tell you, I've also got them located and highlighted at my Facebook page, The Humaniverse. So if you don't feel comfortable writing down these particular websites for gaining more information and knowledge, go to my Humaniverse, The Humaniverse, on my Facebook page, and you'll find them there under Germany, and as like I said, all the other installments that we're going through so far in our world government tour, so to speak. So again, Robert Fleischer is one of the very main contributors. Also to the Central Research Network for Extraordinary Aerospace Phenomenon, and its acronym is CENAP, C-E-N-A-P, Central Research Network for Extraordinary Aerospace Phenomena. Continuing on, there's another Association for UFO Research Group. Its acronym is GEP. They're responsible throughout the years for disseminating more than 140,000 pages of reports, case files, and reports that were filed by the general public, and some official German government disclosure efforts and whatnot. So one other main contributor also to the Mutual UFO Network also does have an active chapter over in Germany. Andreas Schoenhofen is the current chapter director for Germany, and I put his email address actually up here, so if any of my listeners over in Germany do have a sighting, MUFON is the source to report and get a case study going on your particular episode, event, and whatnot. So we'll morph into some of the websites that you can gain more information. As I just mentioned, the MUFON website, MUFON.com, and Andreas Schoenhofen's email address should still be up there. But turning to other websites that hold information, record, case files, and whatnot, the National Archives of the UK was involved, and as I'll mention to you here, we'll talk about this in a minute, in the disclosure efforts that, again, it's been very contentious in terms of getting the German government to disclose things, and only upon encouragement and pressure in litigation, legal matters with the Bundestag, the German parliament, and the German government to release information, it's been known that amongst other international organizations, the UK's, England's National Archives did release within the last 10 years some files relating to German UFO UAP incidents and events. So nationalarchives.gov is another website involved here, and also too the US-based website archive.org with some specific page links and instructions for you here, and also too German effort Bundesarchiv.de, and I'll mention them again here coming up in a discussion on the disclosure history and efforts, which probably is a good time to morph into that right now. So like I said, we have a lot to go in terms of the German efforts, so I'm going to give you the some important, there are other archives and other stories out there that you can research on your own, but a 20-minute, 25-minute time limit kind of puts a restriction for me on talking about everything, and you'll see this particular constraint come up also, particularly in efforts in my episodes on Australia, the UK, the US, and New Zealand itself, which seems, and Brazil, which seems to have more transparency in their records and dissemination than maybe some others. But even though Germany has been very reluctant, there is still quite a bit of information here. So the German agencies that were involved throughout history in the disclosure efforts, again going back to the Nazi Germany days, but those records only have started to been released over the years by efforts by the general public and whatnot. But the Ministry of Transport, BND Intelligence Agency, and the Bundestag, which is the German parliament, and has become very involved in the last couple of decades regarding disclosure, freedom of information, which they have the same FOIA program as many other countries, US, UK, Australia, Brazil again, and whatnot. So the Bundestag has worked in their history very hard to block disclosure. Witness, as I'll tell you here right now, there's been much litigation gone on in the past, especially 20 years, regarding efforts for disclosure and whatnot. For example, in May of 2008, now Germany's official government sources have not made many official announcements and disclosures, but one of the latest and last ones, so to speak, that then prompted many lawsuits to be filed. Back at that time, the Federal Minister of Interior, Wolfgang Schäuble, made the official announcement that he denied, or that there is a denial of German involvement. So I'm going to read you a few quotes here as we go through this next segment here. So again, Wolfgang Schäuble, basically his quote here: "I have no knowledge of any official agency, institution, or body that deals with or investigates sightings of unknown flying objects, so-called UFOs. Furthermore, I have no knowledge of any such official projects whatsoever." That was kind of the last straw in terms of reactions then undertaken by German public, and freedom of information requests, litigation, lawsuits, and things like that. So again, other quotes here. This dispute that culminated in the announcement by Schäuble in May of 2008. The dispute reached its final height when Schäuble, he was the Federal Minister of the Interior again after the time, made the announcement. Soon after, Exopolitics Germany, a UFO disclosure organization, that is from, as I mentioned here, Robert Fleischer. Let's see here. As I go through here, oh yes, the Exopolitics Germany released information about the existence of an investigative report to the German media. So Robert Fleischer took it upon himself to make up this report and release it to the media and the public. By then, again, this was the smoking gun that refuted the announcement of Schabel. It was clear then that someone was trying to cover up the truth, so lawsuits were filed with the Berlin Administrative Court demanding that UFO reports conducted by the state should be made publicly available for German citizens, the German public. A person, gentleman Frank Rittenmeyer, who took the German parliament to court in one of the lawsuits, won the first battle in 2011. The court ruled that German citizens did have the right to see the classified reports put together by the country's specific service. His arguments were the following: I want to know facts, and it bothers me that France, England, USA, Canada, the citizens can see the UFO files, and I am not informed as a German from my German government. It is therefore such a glaring discrepancy. He expressed his disappointment. In France, a citizen is automatically informed by his government because the government provides the UFO files to the website of the space agency. So officially on the government side, anyone can view the documents free at home. And incidentally, I refer you to my episode on France. France along with Brazil, and Chile also, they actually recruit ufologists and UFO UAP researchers and actually pay them to help the study, help do research, and help in the analysis of new UFO reports as they come in. So Germany doesn't do that here, but again, it's been a very contentious, as you're seeing here, effort. So those were the events of 2008 and 2011. So we'll fast forward. 2014 was a very critical year in terms of disclosure, litigation, and whatnot. The Federal Intelligence Service on March the 3rd, 2014, released 67 case files, and amongst them was the 1986 German border barrier report that I mentioned to you earlier on in my talk. These 67 case files are available at the Bundesarchiv.de under code B206//1914. So I'm going to put that up here also for you to take a look at, and you can use it for your future reference. And also these particular sites will be, again, available on my Facebook page titled The Humaniverse. So further in 2014, the German Foreign Secret Intelligence Agency, BND, released more files to the Bundesarchiv, or that are available on the Bundesarchiv.de. And then these files were also, they did this twice in 2014, actually. The BND released two separate segments of they announced that they were going to release two separate segments of files, but they had in the contractual release, so to speak, contractual, that there was still going to be covered up until the release date in 2021. So some of these files were ultimately released, but they're being done on a piecemeal kind of a basis. So, but what was released at the end of 2014 was an assessment study by the Congressional Scientific Research Service of German Parliament, again, the Bundestag. I'll read a quote to you from the article regarding that. This assessment from the Congressional Scientific Research Services, the assessment concludes that the fact that both the United Kingdom, as well as France and several other countries, have been engaged with the question about the existence of UFOs and extraterrestrial life forms, and that they confirmed this interest by publishing their formerly secret files extensively, even online, suggests that the German agencies and federal ministries are engaged with this problem in question. Again, this was done in 2014, and this kind of parallels the recent United States release of the the acknowledgement of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, the ATIP program that they had undertaken since 2007, and the U.S. Congress and Department of Defense disclosures in 2021 and 2022 that indicated to the public that the U.S. government was starting to acknowledge that these phenomenon actually exist. So the German Bundestag was the authorities were kind of paralleling in a way, although a few years earlier, that they at least started to admit that there might be files that exist and studies that may have been undertaken leading to the existence of reports, case files, and whatnot. So, in that and of itself, I'm going to give the German authorities a little bit of acknowledgement here that that they have been a little bit transparent, but that it's still wants when you do your research and get a good understanding and feel for the landscape of the German phenomenon, the German disclosure efforts here. They still remain quite a bit less than transparent, or quite a bit more secretive in disclosing what they have. So, as I wrap up the discussion here on Germany, again, to summarize, that there's been a little bit of transparency, although with the suspected volume of information and files and knowledge that exist, most of it is still being kept under lock and key, with from the few official announcements through history that the German authorities work very in lockstep with United States authorities throughout history, and reasons for that could relate back to post-World War II treaties and ongoing government dictums that were imposed on the German government. Some of those activities and directives may still be in effect today. So, to conclude, the German government, while there has been a little bit and some disclosure, it's been done primarily on the efforts of public, the ufology research community, the general public community, those that are interested, and much litigation, freedom of information, and whatnot. So with that, I'll sign off for now. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Keith again. Please follow the rest of my series. There should be upwards of 16 different episodes. Again, you can go to my YouTube channel, Keith Seelan, The Humaniverse. And in reference to your own particular follow-up on research, your own research and study, again, go to my Facebook page, The Humaniverse, for website address links and whatnot. So with that, I'll say good night, and we'll see you next time real soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye now.